Wholesale is really, really, really hard. It feels hard, right? It is hard. It's incredibly hard. It kills businesses. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that something like 50% of all small businesses everywhere in America just die within 5 years. Don't do that. You're better than that. This video has a bunch of things to watch out for. It's got a bunch of tips. By the end of it, hopefully you will have a much better chance of surviving than you did when we started. So let's get into it. So let's talk about why you'd even want to get started in something as high risk and complicated as wholesale.
Wholesale has a real role to play in any product-based business. And it does a number of things. It's not just about generating cash. It's about marketing. It's about building a customer base that you wouldn't necessarily reach if it's just left up to you. When someone actually sees your product in person, they start to form a relationship with the product as well as with you and with your company. And that is the basis and the foundation of turning them into a lifelong customer and an advocate for your company and for your brand. Wholesale sales can drive not only volume, which has a huge impact on your bottom line, but it can also drive your direct-to-consumer sales in interesting ways. Because let's just say you sell something wholesale to a retailer and they're out of the size that they wanted. They're going to turn around and go looking for it, and the place they're going to go is directly to you. The truth is that when you sell products, people expect to see them in stores. And you get a lot of social proof, and you can essentially borrow the swagger of the stores that you sell in. Your customers are going to judge you by the company you keep, and the company you keep is your retailers. To a large degree, whether you're going to make money selling a product is a question of what the margin is. What percentage of a sale is actually profit? A manufacturer sells the product to a brand, who then sells it to a retailer, who then sells it to a customer. At every single point in that process, money's getting made. To get your margins right, you have to get your volume right. And so wholesale can help drive the baseline margin that can move your product and that can get the higher margin in other places. The wholesale sales calendar is the exact opposite calendar of when the busy seasons are direct to consumer. And the best thing about that is that wholesale can fill in some of the gaps when direct to consumer is lagging. Your end customers want to see you selling retail because it means that your product is of a certain quality, a certain caliber, and that your business is at a certain stage. They're used to it, and so it doesn't sound like a great reason, but lots of people sell wholesale because they should.
So let's talk vocab real quick. Wholesale is basically any sale of a good that goes from one party to another, but not the end consumer. A brand is a seller, and a retailer is a buyer. When we talk about net terms, that's referring to how long you have to pay your bill. So net 15 is going to be 15 days, net 30, 30 days. This is especially useful in wholesale because a lot of times you're buying something on spec, assuming you're going to use the money that you make selling it to pay for it. Longer terms are obviously more favorable to the retailers. Order intake is what you do as a buyer when you receive a package. There's more to it than just opening a box. You got to count everything, make sure it's not broken, and enter in the quantities and the product information into your store platform, whether it's POS, e-commerce, or both. A sell-through report is something that brands love and retailers not so much. It's a detailed report of how many of the items were eventually sold on to end consumers. So brands are really curious to know how much of their inventory is sitting on your shelf versus actually making it out the door. Retailers don't necessarily want to spend their time putting together reports about how much money they're not making. Margin and markup are two different ways of getting at the same number, which is the difference between what you paid for something and what you're going to sell it for. They can be expressed in terms of a multiplier or a percentage. A CRM is a customer relationship manager. Everybody has one, whether it's a Rolodex or a list of contacts in your email application. You can go really deep on them with tools like Salesforce and HubSpot, but generally speaking, it's wherever you keep track of the people you do business with. So it seems like there's a lot to keep track of, and there is, but we can break it down into 6 easy categories for you to keep an eye on and optimize wherever you can. So pricing is obviously very important. As both a buyer and a seller, you need to know what your prices are. Some people can sell t-shirts for $100, some people can't. The best thing to do here is figure out how much money you need to take home at the end of the day, and then work backwards from that in terms of order volume, order margins, overhead cost, etc. So inventory, obviously very important, very tricky to keep track of. You want to make sure that supply and demand curves are meeting as smoothly as possible. Obviously, you don't want to say no when someone wants to make a purchase, but you also don't want to be sitting on too much excess inventory. Whether you're a brand or a retailer, inventory on the shelf on average costs you about 25% of its value per year to just hold on to. So it's not just hanging out, it's hurting your business, it's tying up resources, and you want to make sure that you don't have too much of it sitting around. Cash flow is another seemingly simple but very complicated piece of the puzzle, especially when you get net terms involved. You know, net terms are just another form of credit, and anytime you're extending yourself with credit, you got to be really, really careful. Obviously, you want to use as much money as you can to do what you're going to do at every step in the way. But if you've got a bill coming due in 30 days or a payment coming in 30 days, you need to plan for the next 29 days being aware of that. And you probably have more than one, and it gets tricky fast. Shipping has a lot of moving pieces as well. On the brand side, you probably have to have relationships with a number of carriers. You got to think about customs if you're going internationally, and insurance for stuff that can go missing or get broken. On the retailer side, you want to make sure that, among other things, you can receive packages after hours and not have to worry about them getting stolen. So reporting and analytics are a really big deal. These are your eyes and ears. And I know it can be overwhelming. There's so many different options for what to look at and how to look at them and who to pay to look at them. But you got to do this or you're just flying blind, and you're probably going to lose sales to someone who isn't. The final thing to pay attention to, and the most important, your relationships. Everything you do as a wholesaler, every shipment, every order, every message, every manufacturing run, these are all byproducts of your relationships. You got to stay on top of them. You got to check in on people. You got to know where you stand, or you could just miss out on enormous opportunities for growth. So Candid, of course, can help you with all of this. Candid is a platform for buying and selling wholesale. It keeps track of your orders, your relationships, your shipments, your payments, all the stuff we talked about in this video and more. So if you have any questions about anything we talked about today or anything we didn't, please be in touch. Our contact information should be below. That's candidwholesale.com. So if you found any of this helpful, please subscribe. We're going to keep doing these until we stop. Thanks for your time, and happy wholesaling.